Well, hello there, fearless midlife trailblazers. Welcome to Create the Best Me. If you are new here, I am so glad you made it here. If you're a returning listener, welcome back to the one and only place where we encourage and empower women to pursue their dreams and live life to their fullest. I am Carmen Hecox, your host and personal development coach. Today's guest is a master coach of the art of being unmessable with more than 30 years of experience, having coached more than 200,000 people. Yes, you heard me right, 200,000. She's also an author, entrepreneur, former #1 pop star, founder of a nonprofit, wife, and mother of 3. Her passion and secret power is empowering people to realize their dream now versus someday and become unmessable with no matter what life throws at them. Yes, if you're a fan of this woman just like I am, you know exactly who I'm talking about. None other than the amazing Josselyne Herman-Saccio. And today she's going to talk about identifying your dream source and begin living that life now rather than waiting for your dream to happen. So without further ado, let's dig into the conversation. Welcome to Create the Best Me. I am Carmen Hecox, a personal development coach, and I am so excited to be connecting with you today. Whether you're listening to the podcast or joining us on YouTube, my goal is to help women navigate through midlife challenges with compassion, inspiration, and empowering conversation. Each week, we'll dive into thought-provoking topics designed to build self-confidence, overcome invisible woman syndrome, and find the courage to create the best version of yourself. I'll also be joined by expert guests who will share the wisdom and insights. So make yourself comfortable and let's embark on this journey together. Hello and welcome, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, to the show. I am so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be with you.
Josselyne, for some of the people that, believe it or not, may not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a transformative coach for 30 years, more than 30 years. I've been leading transformative programs, doing one-on-one coaching, group coaching, designing programs. I also have an entertainment company and I manage the careers of about 120 actors. I am married for almost 30 years. In fact, our anniversary is this month. And we have 3 pretty much grown children. Our youngest is 17, graduating high school this year. And I have a nonprofit that I started in 2008 called United Global Shift that works with transforming systems, not individuals, but systems. And I used to be a pop star with a #1 record in 1912, it feels like, but no, 1993, I believe it was. So 30 years ago.
Great. And I remember listening to you. You didn't talk about this, but I remember about maybe 7 years ago, you did a TEDx talk.
I did, yes. I did, called Abracadabra, Living the Life of Your Dreams Now, Not Someday. And that's all inside of my, commitment to empower people to fulfill their dreams and develop their muscle to be unmessable with, which is what I call the work that I do, the art of being unmessable with.
And you most certainly are an unmessable woman. Josselyne, I know our viewers will benefit so much from having you on today's show because you are a living example of someone who is living the life of their dreams, fulfilling her passion and helping others discover their dreams and live that life as well. And I know at an early age, you stopped living the life of someday and began living your life now.
Yeah.
You shot down your limiting beliefs and curated a path to living the life of your dreams.
Yeah. And thank God for transformative work because I was 11 when I did my first transformative program because my parents were separated and they were going to get divorced. And then my mother, who had been sort of a victim of the whole situation with my dad and what was happening, she came out of this weekend program and was like a different human being. She was my first example of being unmessable with. She started creating things and fulfilling on them. It was like she became like this magic person. And then my father did the same program like a year later and they got back together. And they're celebrating their 65th year together this month, and they're, like in love like little kids. It's amazing. And so I'm clear transformation is sort of the answer for people who want to live the life of their dreams. And at 11, I said, well, whatever you guys did, I want to do it. And they had a kid's version, so I did it. And I started to know myself as somebody who didn't have to be messable with, who didn't have to give up on my dreams and my visions. Even if I failed, I was able to stay in action and fulfill on what I really saw possible. And then at a very early age, around early 20s, I had this dream to be a singer since I was 4 years old, but I was also very clear that you can't do your art as your career because that just seemed like the truth to me, even though it wasn't necessarily the truth, because you see people making a living being an artist, but that didn't compute. For me, I only saw the evidence of the starving artists, because that reinforced this belief I had that you can't do your art as your career. So then there I was in a seminar, and all of a sudden it occurred to me, like, what if that's not true? What if that's a decision I made in the infinite wisdom of 5 that isn't the truth? And all of a sudden that lid or that limiting belief disappeared. And I was left like in action on my dreams. And I started introducing myself to people as a singer. And within 3 weeks, I got a record deal.
That's amazing.
It was miraculous, but it wasn't mysterious.
Well, I mean, you had the talent, you had the gift to be a singer, but you blew away all the limiting beliefs that this can't happen, and this can happen.
It can happen if you take actions, if you tell people you're a singer. I never told anybody I was a singer because I thought it meant I was a loser, like I'm a starving artist. I didn't want to be known as that. But once that was gone, I was free to share my dream, to take action, making a demo. I got this phone call 3 weeks after I had that breakthrough. And this woman's like, I heard you're a singer. I was like, who is this? They never would have heard I was a singer because I never told anybody. But for those 3 weeks, I was introducing myself as a singer. She said, well, we're putting together this girl group. It's like a female New Kids on the Block, and we need a 5th member. And this girl who had auditioned for it said, you'd be right for it. She wasn't right for it, but that you're a singer and you'd be right for it. I was like, that never would have happened if I hadn't have taken those actions.
Maybe you began to act like a singer.
Yes, exactly. And do the things that a singer would do.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Put yourself out there.
Sing in front of actual humans.
Yeah. So what strategies do you think you can suggest to women in midlife to help them uncover their dream source like you did and find clarity in their aspirations?
Well, the first thing I always ask the people that I work with, because at that point, when I was in my early 20s, that's when I got committed to other people fulfilling their dreams. Because I had fulfilled, I was like, this is easy. You can not easy, but simple. You can actually fulfill any dream that you disappear your limiting beliefs about and then get an action around. So I, created being a leader of transformative work and a manager for actors so that I could support people in doing that. And the first thing that I ask people is, what's your dream? And you'd be surprised how many people can't answer that question because they're so busy dealing with what life is throwing at them. They're looking down, they're managing, they're surviving. They're not looking up and out at their vision. So that's one of the first things I have to do with people is get them pried out or unpried out of the world of reaction and looking up and out into the world of creation to see, okay, well, if I could have anything, what would I want? Like, what do I really want to fulfill on? What am I on this planet for to fulfill on? And I have them look at not only their goals, but their dreams, like their someday dreams, like someday I want to fill in the blank. And I work with them to see why they have the dreams they have. And that's what I call your dream source, like what you referenced. And that's in the TED Talk, is the source of your dreams, not the goal, but what's behind it. What's the world from which it came that actually is the thing you really want.
So is that like, for example, let's say I want to create
Yeah, we'll just do it with you. Yeah, let's just do it with you. So give me a goal, some goal you got in the next immediate future.
A goal I have in the immediate future is I want to have, well, for this year, because I just started this podcast back in February. So by the end of the year, my goal would be to have 2,000 downloads.
Okay. So let's say that happened, right? Then what would be available to you that isn't available to you now?
I would have reached a larger audience.
Okay. So now let's say you reached a larger audience. Now what's there, like available to you, like a presence that isn't available right now?
I would feel like I'm actually making a difference, that I'm changing women's lives.
And let's say you were changing women's lives and they're writing you and telling you about it. And what's then present, like a space?
I guess it would give me my purpose.
Yeah.
It would give me that inner peace, that calling that I made a difference, that I changed, even if it was just one person's perspective, opened up their mind, and now they're living to their full potential.
So you can hear a few things in what you shared, right? So one thing I heard was peace of mind. Another thing I heard was purpose. And another thing that was in a few different things you said was making a difference. So I would take those three and have that be the first cut at your dream source. So if your dream source is peace, purpose, and making a difference, that's not something you have to wait till you have 2,000 downloads or 2 million downloads to accomplish. You can come from that space right now in this conversation and bring that to your interactions versus hope to get it out of life. You bring it to life. And that's what I mean by realizing your dreams now, not someday when you hit 2,000 downloads.
Very true. Very good.
Yeah. So that becomes a new space to live your life from, which is a created space. You created that. That's not a reactionary space. That's a creative space. And that's the work that I do with people, to have them move from the world of reaction, which so much of life is in that realm, to the world of creation.
True. So how can women identify limiting beliefs or fears that they may have that are holding them back from discovering their dream source or reaching their goals?
Well, I mean, how you discover what messes with you is by taking on a commitment that you're stopped in. So if I said to you, okay, get 2,000 followers by next month, what would be right there for you?
I think the first thing would be the fear of, how am I going to do this?
Yeah. So that fear of how am I going to do this is likely not isolated to getting 2,000 followers. That's likely a conversation that messes with you in different areas of your life. So that's, the Cliff Note way of seeing what's in the way, is I don't know how to do it. So that stops a lot of people. That's what messes with a lot of people. It's like they have the vision to start a new business or to triple their income or to, get married or whatever, but I don't know how. I don't know where to start. And that is a limiting belief that stops people from being in action on their dreams. And, when you're most creative, you're most alive. So even when you didn't know how to do something, I mean, everybody can relate to something that they created where it was just kind of like they were making it up as they went along and it was invigorating. Even the failures were invigorating because you were in that creative space. But then we move into managing what we created, which is all about making sure it's not broken and survives and, sustains itself and gets better and which is a different muscle. So the trick is being able to shift into the world of creation, even when you've already built something, not just when you're creating it from nothing, but be able to live from that space, even when you have a multi-million-dollar business or, God willing, for people, right? Or you have a marriage of 30 years. How do you keep creating your marriage? Because, you look over, it's the same person every morning. So it's like not much to create. That's the default way of living, is kind of like, okay, I know you. All right. Now let's go to Costco or whatever. But how do you create your relationship right now and right now and right now from that space of your dream source?
I think it's inviting passion back into it.
It could be if passion is your dream. Yeah, absolutely. But then there are actions. So it's like, okay, what actions are you going to take? And then, I would coach you to put those actions in your calendar, because if you don't have it in your calendar, it's in your head, and your head is also where your fears are and where your limitations are. So you don't want stuff up there. Get it out here in the world, in reality. I recommend a calendar. And, if you're creating passion with your spouse, okay, what action are you going to take? I mean, this is going down a road right now, but let's say, okay, so what action are you going to take tomorrow at 7:00 that's going to create that passion? So you don't write it in your calendar as a to-do, like go to the movies or have dinner. It's create passion, have dinner. So it's a context that you're creating for whatever you're doing to live inside of.
Yeah, that's good. Really good.
In the realm of tips.
How can women in midlife establish daily habits and routines that will help them toward acting toward their dream source and maintaining focus on their desired outcome?
Well, it actually brings me back to what I just said about your calendar. I actually have a calendar workshop that I offer people, and it's all about being able to create your calendar as your life. So you experience being the author of your life. I put everything in my calendar, from showering to checking the stock market to emails to whatever it is, preparing for a meeting, because if it isn't in my calendar, the likelihood of it happening is much less than if it's in my calendar, because I can see it and act on it. And I can't tell you how many times I'll be like, walking down the street and I'll have in my calendar, get dessert for like dinner that I'm going to tonight, right? You might see my cat's tail any second because she just walked up in front of the screen. But in any case, and I'll be walking up to the Whole Foods and my alarm will go get dessert, because I live that kind of life where I've created it and then it's happening, because I have a lot of power with my word, because I practice doing what I say in every area, whether it's take a shower at 7 a.m. or do yoga at 8 a.m. or whatever it is. Here comes the tail. It just missed the screen. Okay. Socrates is the cat. She's definitely doesn't understand what personal space is. But whatever it is you're creating, if you can develop muscle with being able to say something and have it happen enough times, then you can say things like 2,000 downloads by next month. And all of a sudden, you'll have access to the kinds of actions that it's going to take to have that happen. Because you could have 2,000 downloads by next week if you really got into action about it. There is a pathway. There's no question. It's just your limiting beliefs about what's doable or what's probable or what's, what you have access to keep you looking like this versus then like this.
Wow. So you program everything into your calendar?
I do.
Because I only program like just business and like personal health stuff or vacations. That's the only thing I program into my calendar. I don't program, for example, my husband and I take daily walks. We walk 3.5 miles every day. There is no set time that we do that.
Well, the beautiful thing about a calendar is, at least if you're using a Google Calendar or an Apple Calendar, you can move the blocks. So if you have it in there as a recurring event, you can move the time, but it's there. It isn't real unless it's real out here. It's a real thought or a real intention, but it's not real, like in reality, unless it's out here. And out here is your calendar. So I recommend starting to put that stuff in your calendar. Otherwise, it's like, you hope you're going to do it, or you intend to do it, or, but you don't have a word in the matter of doing it. And that's something very powerful, is your word. And ultimately being unmessable with is your word is unmessable with. So a lot of the work that I do with people is strengthening the muscle of their word. One access is to make promises and then realize your promises. So I promise to make 5 people smile today, whatever it is. You just create a promise that's going to bring forth, like if your dream source is peace and purpose and making a difference, what promises could you create that would bring that to your trip to Starbucks or your walk with your husband or whatever it is that you're doing? What could you honor as a matter of your word that would begin to create that kind of environment as a creation? Not just kind of be in the environment that's there by default and deal with it.
So I guess the reason behind your entire calendar system is that you are, as you stated, you're building a system to take action. It's an action system. So whether it's something as minute as brushing your teeth at 6 a.m. It's action.
Well, it's more than action. The action comes out of your word. That's the thing. Because you take actions all day long. I mean, if somebody throws a ball at you, you're going to act on it, but that might not be in your calendar. So the question is, are you reacting to life or are you creating it with your word? I've found that, I mean, and it's not about the calendar. It's about your being able to exercise the muscle of creation. Because if you create brushing your teeth at 6 a.m., that's in word. You're creating that. It's the same thing as creating 2,000 downloads. It's the same mode. It's the same paintbrush. And if your paintbrush is weak, your painting's going to be weak. So I just use things like the walk or, checking email or whatever it is you put in your calendar as an access to exercising the muscle of word so that when you say, I promise to forgive my ex-husband, that has muscle behind it. It isn't just like a flippant thing. It isn't like you can't hear your own word or people can't hear your own word like it's got power because you say X and X happens.
And I remember my father, ever since I was a little girl, used to always say, you're only as good as your word.
Yeah, there you go.
And so if you give somebody your word, everything else has to fall because you promised this person this event was going to happen or that you were going to do this thing.
And a lot of people do live true to that, but their word to themselves is weak. So you might keep a promise to me, but if you just write something in your calendar and nobody else knows it, and it's not like involving another person, you'll skate out on that one. And that's the biggest thing that people get messed with about because they don't realize it isn't about who they give their word to or what they give their word to. It's that it's their word that is the point. That's what I want people to have a relationship to, not the thing they gave or the person. Because you can always justify, well, I'm annoyed with them. I'm not going to have lunch with them. You can always have a reason not to do what you said you were going to do if you're using the thing or the person as what it is. No. It's your word. It's not you're only as good as your word. You are your word. So now what? Are you going to honor you as your word, or are you going to honor your thoughts and feelings and moods, which you have nothing to say about because it's all reaction?
So when you're doing this, how can you avoid being burned out?
Well, there's really no burnout when you're connected to your purpose or your dream source because that becomes the context for everything. So let me demonstrate what I mean by context. In the context body part, what is this?
That is a finger.
Exactly. It's not a trick question. It just shows up for you as a finger. But in the context number, what is it?
It's 1.
Now notice, in reality, nothing's altered. But when you alter the context, everything alters. Like how you see what you're dealing with, how you interact with what you're dealing with, what you act on is all altered because the context is decisive. And the context only exists in word. In language. So if you are present to, that's why I have people create intimacy, have dinner with my husband, create vitality, walk for the 45 minutes or whatever it is, because what you're creating is a context for that task to exist inside of. So you're not burnt out because you're connected to who you really are and your purpose and your calling and your, raison d'etre and, what you're here for, the why of what you're doing things for. So that creates energy because it's in this world of creation, not reaction. You can get burnt out in the world of reaction like that, even if you've had 10 hours sleep.
That's true. Very true. So it's merely just a perception of how you view the situation?
Yeah, well, how you view yourself and the situation and people has total impact on how you think and how you feel. And if you view your husband as someone who adores you, you're going to be a whole different way than if you view him as somebody who criticizes you.
That's true.
So your view has the biggest say. And your view is colored by the context. And you have not much to say about the circumstance. Circumstances, but you have everything to say about your view of the circumstances and the context in which they occur.
I like that. So tell me, what kind of practical exercises or techniques do you have that can help people?
Well, one is promising. I think that's a very good tool. And to get started on the path of the art of being unmessable with, I always recommend creating a game out of it, you know? So I have this free gift that I give people called the promise game, and it's 5 days. And each day you get a different email with a promise for the day. And you kind of notice, you know, what opens up out of honoring that promise all day long, or what you bump up against, like what messes with you in keeping your promises, which is your word, right? So what messes with you in your intention, and what opens up when you do say X and do X. And that's like an easy kind of lift, not a heavy lifting way to enter into this whole game of being unmessable with. But ultimately, I mean, the calendar workshop is another great access. I mean, that's like a $19 thing on my website, which is 45 minutes of training of how to create your life through your calendar. It's like, I think, one of the biggest bangs for your buck that I have. But there's also a dream source discovery process, which I know that you saw the TED Talk and really got connected to that whole world of dream source. And that's a 5-day, although you can do it at your own pace, process by which you start to get connected to your dreams, to your dream source, to what messes with you, and a pathway out of it. So that's a thing you can, and again, it's like $47 or something, you know, really. And then we have courses, and we have group coaching, and we have one-on-one coaching, which is all, you know, like it tiers up, right? In terms of your wherewithal. But there's a way for everybody to get started, whether it's my newsletters, which are all free, and you can just take, they all have tips in them and little strategies. I have videos on the website of press interviews and TED Talks and all of that that gives you actionable access. My mission is to have as many people as possible fulfilling their dreams and developing themselves to be unmessable with. That's what I'm here on this planet for. So I got lots of ways for people to enter that game.
And you're living proof that you've lived that life, you've done it, and you've inspired many, many people because you have clients that you manage, and they're living their dreams.
They are. And I've led, you know, programs for a couple 100,000 people over the years. And I hear from them about the results that they're producing. And it never ends. It's not like, well, now I'm unmessable with and nothing messes. No, stuff messes with me. I just get out of it real quick because I do what I tell people to do. I practice what I say. I don't just say, do as I say, not as I do. I am in this game with everybody. So yes, I have 45 years of muscle under my belt, but that doesn't buy me anything at the customer service desk at T-Mobile when I'm annoyed and getting reactivated. I got to practice my own methodology to be able to step over to the world of creation. Or when I see that I have a someday dream that I'm not acting on, which I recently saw back in October, November, when I was leading a course called Creating the Foundation for Being Unmessable With. I saw that I had a someday dream about moving to Paris. And I was like, well, there is no someday. So am I going to keep talking about this for the next 40 years or am I going to do it? So I am moving to Paris in 6 days. In that course said, that's it. By June, we're doing it. And we are doing it because it's a series of actions that fulfills on a dream, not thinking about it. Thinking about it produces thoughts. Talking about it produces words. Actions produce results.
Nice dream.
I know it's not too shabby, you know, but there's a lot of stuff I had to deal with inside of that dream. Like, what about my kids? And what about my 90 and 92-year-old parents? And, you know, they rely on us every week. So I had to set up structure. Again, all actions, conversations, setting up a calendar for who's going to be there when to take care of them and support them. And, you know, getting my father WhatsApp on his phone so we can have video calls every morning instead of just our audio. You know, so there's a world that opens up once you give your word to something. I didn't have the word in the matter. I had a hope that someday I'd move to Paris. And I lead this stuff, you know, but it was a blind spot for me. So that's why it's like a mountain with no top, you know, it's never, and mastery, you never are there. It's always the next blind spot and the next limiting belief and the next conversation that's in the way or the next thing that messes with you to illuminate and disappear. So that's, you know, the game I'm in. So that's why I like to invite people to play the same game.
Yeah, and I think it's a good game because I think that with the way the world has changed, we need this.
Yeah.
We need to be able to change with it, but change on our own terms.
Yeah.
and be unmessable.
And not be reactive. I mean, look at what's going on in the news. People are being shot because somebody, walks up to the wrong door. And that's completely from fear and survival and being a reaction. That's taking a breath and looking at what you're committed to creating and then having a say. And that's all default. That's all amygdala hijack, reptilian brain, fight or flight. There's no you even involved or necessary for that kind of stuff. And that's everywhere. That's in your marriages. That's in your workplaces. That's with your kids. That's people. And it's, to the extreme, politics and war and all of that,
So, Josselyne, other than moving to Paris, what else are you working on?
Well, I'm working on my group coaching program, which starts in a couple of weeks. And then I also have the Foundation for Being Unmessable With. I'm going to work on a recorded version of that to make it more accessible for people at a cheaper price. And then I also am working on some events to free people around money, because that's one of the biggest things that messes with people is money. So I'm working with two people, one that coaches me in stock trading. And I've gotten so many breakthroughs around my relationship to money out of working with him. And then my girlfriend, Robin, who is Howard Stern's sidekick, Robin Quivers. She and I have like this whole vision about freedom for money. So we're going to do an event with her, me, and Tyrone Jackson, who's our money coach. And it's going to be about moving from fear to freedom. They're going to be free events. We're going to do those once a month. And, I've just got all sorts of stuff that I'm creating every day. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do a course about that. Maybe I'll do an event about that. Like, why not?
I also heard something about you being over on my side of the country.
Yes, I am doing two things on your side of the country. One is, this was the best invitation. I was invited to be the keynote speaker at the World Cup of Transformation. I was like, World Cup, I'm in. Whatever that is, I'm in. I was like hoping I wouldn't have to wear spiky sneakers or something, but it's all about transformation. So I'm going to be speaking there in San Diego in June. And then I also have a corporate arm. I have a company with two partners called Mission B, and we're doing something called the Blueprint Workshop, which is for entrepreneurs, founders, executives to bring their teams to not only find their North Star, their purpose, like you and I were just talking about, but also experience authoring the intent of their company, like a whole new future for their company. So yeah, a few things going on, right?
In between living in Paris? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I'll be doing some of it from Paris. Your neck of the woods from Paris is like a 15-hour flight, but I'm doing it to come out to San Francisco to do that Blueprint workshop. Yeah, I'm very excited about the work I'm doing with Mission B, because it's one thing to work one-on-one with people, but to work with teams of people in organizations, there's a lot of leverage that can happen in terms of shifting the conversation around business so that it becomes one where people are not only focused on the profit or even the planet or the people, but also the purpose.
Right. And is that the thing in San Francisco? Is that a private for just a private corporate event, or is that something that's big like
people can
World
register
Cup
for it if you go to missionb, the letter B, .co, C-O. There's information on it, and you can absolutely register for it for sure. And the summit also, the Successful Living Summit, the World Cup of Transformation, is registerable for too. If you go to my website, actually, I have coming events, and all of this stuff is up on my website, theartofbeingunmessablewith.com.
Perfect. We're going to put all your events that are coming up. They'll be in the show notes so that if people want to get a little more Josselyne, they can.
Oh,
if they're over on the West Coast.
Yeah, if they want to see me in person. Otherwise, they got tons of videos and written stuff that they can engage with.
Exactly. So where can people find you?
Theartofbeingunmessablewith.com is my website, and it has pretty much everything I'm up to, from courses and ways to work with me to coming events like the live events that we're talking about, to the newsletters, to press interviews, all sorts of stuff that people can engage. And the TED Talk that you liked so much, that's all up there too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I do appreciate you having you on. And I hope to have you on again.
I would love that.
Because women in midlife they really need to learn how to be unmessable. I mean, not that we're not unmessable, because I think we are, but I think we may need to up our game.
Well, I think that there are things that happen that we feel like we just have to deal with, like lack of sleep or, stuff that happens for us as we reach a certain age. And it's all malleable. You can impact anything if you get committed to it and have a word in the matter, and most people just deal with stuff effectively rather than create a whole new space. And that's really what I'm committed to, that people have the ability to create.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. Like I said, everything is going to be in the show notes.
Wonderful.
I don't know about you, but I just couldn't get enough of Josselyne's valuable information. If you want more of Josselyne, she, along with two of her other partners from their company, Mission B, have an upcoming workshop on June 8th in San Francisco called Blueprint Workshop. It's designed for entrepreneurs, founders, and executives to bring their team not only to find their North Star and purpose, but take their company into the future. If you can't make that event, she will also be a keynote speaker at this year's Successful Living Summit 2023 World Cup, June 22nd through the 24th in San Diego. You can register to sign up to any of those events. There are still spots available. If you are interested in any of those events, you can find that information along with Josselyne's information at createthebestme.com/EP012. Again, I just want to express my complete gratitude to Josselyne Herman-Saccio, who at the time of the recording was just a few days away from packing and moving to Paris, France. If this episode inspired you, be sure to subscribe to stay updated on upcoming episodes. Join me next week as I will talk about your identity in midlife. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, keep dreaming big, take care of yourself, and remember, you are beautiful, strong, and capable of creating the best version of yourself. Thank you for watching. Catch you next time. Bye for now.